So nearly a decade ago, as I approached my senior year at BYU, I was advised by an industry recruiter to forego some of the traditional experiences associated with finishing college. The recruiter told me not to put too much emphasis on coursework or internships. Instead, he recommended that I build something that I care about and see it work in the world. I took his advice, and a year later, along with a few good friends, I was in New Zealand, dressed in a cloak and waistcoat, filming a documentary about trying to be cast as an extra in the Hobbit movie. This experience, while seemingly bizarre, allowed me to produce my own film. It got me multiple job offers out of school and enabled me to donate thousands of dollars to the Christchurch earthquake relief. But perhaps the most important thing I learned on this adventure was how to confront unstructured problems and work my way through them. The road to the Shire, as it was called, taught me how to handle ambiguity, how to create meaning, and how to design a life that I was interested in living. Young adults on their own proverbial adventures today are taking longer to find a destination than ever before. The average age for accepting an adult role, such as a parent, worker, spouse, or citizen, has risen significantly. Additionally, 75% of college graduates work in fields unrelated to their degree or that do not require the degree they earned. This all suggests that young people are taking more time to explore more options, which is a fine thing. Too much ambiguity, however, can lead to decreased motivation, increased anxiety, and depression. There are many career educators and organizations trying to solve this problem. One of the most notable is the Life Design Lab here at Stanford. Based on the principles of design, Dave Evans and Bill Burnett, who's on the call with us, thanks for being here, Bill, developed this concept of life design, which applies design thinking to the wicked problems of life and vocational wayfinding. Their book is full of practices and principles that help individuals handle excessive ambiguity. In short, the model suggests to get curious, talk to people, and try stuff. I've been fortunate to be quite involved with the Life Design Lab during my time at Stanford. I facilitated all of the lab's courses, including Designing Your Stanford, Designing Your Life, Designing the Professional, as well as the Life Design Studio for career educators from around the world. As I facilitated these courses, however, I noticed that students were rarely applying the theories we taught them to life outside of school. I wanted to tell them to forget the coursework and internships and consider how they might apply life design to things beyond their formal education. I wasn't expecting them to dress in cloaks and fly to New Zealand necessarily, but I knew they would need genuine experience in order to apply the skills we were trying to teach them. Learning to change a tire in an auto shop is one thing. You've got all the tools you could need. You've got a mechanic looking over your shoulder, and you've got someone else's car to practice on. It's an entirely different thing to change a flat tire along a remote stretch of desert highway while your partner is getting dehydrated. In the same way, learning life design in the lab is different than practicing it outside of the classroom. The latter requires meaningful experience and mobile tools. Fortunately, young adults know a thing or two about mobile tools. Social media apps like Instagram reinforce on-the-go digital behaviors and offer social credit for sharing unique experiences. Getting curious, talking to people, and trying stuff are the same affordances that make apps like Instagram so popular. According to the Pew Research Center, over 70% of Americans between the ages 18 and 24 use Instagram, which made me wonder, how might I design a learning experience on Instagram to help young adults better deal with the ambiguities of life? But for most young adults, social media usage actually contributes to the anxiety they feel about life. There is still something missing that I would need to find if I was going to build a successful tool in this space. In 1969, Bernie Roth created a class at the D School called Designer in Society as a way to encourage students to think differently about how they achieve goals in their life, to get them to stop thinking wistfully about possibilities and to start actually doing. As detailed in his book, The Achievement Habit, the heart of the course is a self-selected project. Students must either do something they've always wanted to do but never done, or handle a problem in their lives. If they did the thing by the end of the term, they got credit. If not, no credit. This prompt struck me as a great way to frame a life design learning experience outside of the classroom, and a great way to utilize the powers of social media to alleviate anxiety rather than exacerbate it. So enter the long-armed astronaut flying in a green paper airplane. The interesting project is a 42-day Instagram experience to help young adults learn how to apply the principles of design thinking to life outside of the classroom in order to better deal with the ambiguities of life. The interesting project, or TIP for short, aims to engender 3 particular learning outcomes: curiosity, collaboration, and bias toward action, which refer directly to the summarized steps of the life design theory mentioned earlier. Get curious, talk to people, and try stuff. Oops. There we go. So how does it work? Learners engage with the experience by first opening the Instagram app and searching for @TheInteresting Project, which navigates them to the TIP page. You'll quickly notice the scrolling mosaic that showcases the life design theory visually. Get curious, talk to people, try stuff. The first 6 posts explain how to navigate the experience, in which learners are given detailed instructions on how to participate. They're directed to create their own Instagram account and given a few tips for getting started. Once they've done that, the mosaic syllabus becomes less directional, meaning participants can explore posts in any order depending on their project needs. Now, what do I mean explore posts? I'll scroll down to the blue planet just beneath the word curious, particularly the right half of the blue planet with the orange moon that says the bug list. When I click on that square, I find several other images attached to it. Sorry for these pre-recorded videos. I can then swipe right and see the other images functioning as further instructions for the selected activity. In this case, we invite participants to make a bug list, which is a problem-finding activity to help learners come up with problems they might want to solve and projects they might want to pursue. While TIP works asynchronously, the test that I ran was a synchronous cohort of 12 participants. These are all learners in their 20s, with one exception. Emily is actually a visiting associate arts professor of interactive media and business at NYU Shanghai. She actually teaches life design, but she wanted to try the experience out, so I promised her I'd save her a spot. The others are mostly from Stanford and the University of Utah. Some are college graduates, others are nearing graduation. Some have taken a class in the life design lab, but most have not. All of them were willing to commit 6 weeks of their lives during a crazy time, and only one participant had to drop out early. Their projects included things like recording albums, writing books, designing a virtual reality brain, catering a 3-course meal, designing a good news newspaper, filming a documentary about addiction, finding a new job, and designing a soccer cleat for Nike. You'll see some colorful stars near the top of the TIP page. As I scroll right, you'll see all the participants' names under a colored star. If I tap on the one labeled Brian, then tap his handle @BrianPTip near the top, that will take me to Brian's page. Brian decided he wanted to become a better cook. One of the things he gained from the experience was narrowing down his goal to be much more specific. His goal became, quote, "Something I've always wanted to do but never done is cater a dinner party for friends and family featuring a 3-course meal that I designed and cooked entirely." Setting a SMART goal helped Brian develop a bias toward action, as he knew precisely what he was trying to accomplish. This is another participant's project. Steph designed a good news newspaper for the entire month of June. She graphically illustrated stories from across the world of people dealing with hard things in beautiful ways. On the left is her first post introducing her project, and on the right is her final post showing a printed copy of the paper with all 30 stories. What I'd like to call out here is that this was not an easy time for any of these participants. With a global pandemic in full swing and racial equality being hotly discussed, many participants expressed difficulty staying focused. But in most cases, in Steph's part in particular, I got to witness the powers of curiosity, collaboration, and bias toward action, as participants created meaningful artifacts in the face of these difficulties, suggesting that the desired learning outcomes were being reached. This is a short demonstration of Steph posting her final image to Instagram. You notice how easy it is for her to navigate the app and how quickly she can create a new post and share her work with the world. Of course, not all participants have the same level of Instagram mastery, but it was reassuring to see a participant using the tool so intuitively and navigating the learning experience the way I designed it. In addition to participants creating their own accounts, leveraging the mosaic for instruction and posting content as regularly as possible, I also engaged participants in daily debriefs of their experience. I conducted a diary study through Instagram's direct message feature, primarily to collect qualitative data during the experience. I would message participants to see how things were going, answer questions, and provide encouragement. Here you're seeing a conversation between me and Rob, one of the participants, on the first day of the experience. What started as a way for me to gather insights, however, became one of the participants' favorite features of the learning tool. More than half of the participants directly mentioned the daily check-in as the feature that helped them the most during the experience. Here you see that I was able to share specific pieces of the mosaic curriculum with each participant. Instagram also makes it easy to share outside links or content directly from Instagram where relevant. Like this Dallas Clayton cartoon, which I think perfectly encapsulates how life design often feels. So after 42 days with each of these participants pursuing something they've always wanted to do but never done, the question remains, did it work? In addition to the daily diary study, I administered a pre and post survey to gauge participants' self-reported levels of curiosity, collaboration, and bias toward action. I did this by adapting Dr. Todd Kashdan's curiosity and exploration inventory to not only query curiosity, but also collaboration and bias toward action. For example, one of Kashdan's curiosity statements is, I actively seek as much information as I can in new situations. According to the data, I saw a slight consolidation of averages, but no significant increase or decrease across the cohort. I then adapted the same statement to gauge levels of collaboration. In this case, I actively seek as many new opinions as I can in new situations. Here I saw an increase, but only a modest one. I again adapted the statement to gauge levels of self-reported bias toward action. In this case, the statement became, I actively try as many solutions as I can in new situations. Here I saw the most consistent increase of averages, but nothing that struck me as significant. This lack of quantitative insight was similar across the 30 questions. Nothing jumped out at me as showing significant evidence of change, but I knew from the daily diary study that participants had reported significant changes in both attitude and behavior. So I was pleased to see that the changes were reflected in the qualitative survey responses. For example, this response from the survey shows good evidence that this participant, at least, was indeed learning more about life design than they had previously. It says, quote, I found that by participating, I was able to actually apply many life design principles in my life before I learned about them, but I didn't apply them immediately. And this response highlights that the tool was indeed leading to meaning making for another participant. Quote, I love TIP. It has helped bring meaning and accountability into my day-to-day world. While the numbers didn't show an obviously significant spike in learners' bias toward action, this response leads me to believe that a lot more action was happening behind the scenes than the quantitative data showed. Quote, I've made more progress in the past month than I have in the past 4 years. And finally, this response gives me encouragement that the intervention I designed ultimately did produce the desired effect of teaching learners life design beyond the classroom. Quote, I've been taught my whole life how to study and learn in classes, but I realized I hadn't fully developed my skills in how to study and learn topics outside of school, end quote. A final question I wondered about, was Instagram the right platform? The feature certainly allowed for a lot of interesting educational innovation. The Stanford GSE Technology Innovation Awards named TIP a most daring use of technology for formal and informal learning. However, when I asked participants how well Instagram worked as a platform for their experience, from 0 to 10, the rating showed no real consistency. The app apparently worked differently for everyone. Of the responses to the question, what would you change about TIP, about half mentioned Instagram's drawbacks. But as I mentioned earlier, others loved aspects afforded by the same platform. So to be honest, I'm not exactly sure if Instagram was right. It was certainly a new approach, and I think it could and should be utilized better by more researchers in the future. So in conclusion, I would say that I designed an innovative learning tool that leveraged Instagram in a new way, though not perfectly, and successfully helped participants do something they've always wanted to do but never done. As a mobile learning tool, TIP successfully reaches beyond the traditional learning environment and administers a meaningful life design experience. Based on survey responses, I believe the participants are now better prepared to handle the ambiguities of young adult life than they were before the intervention. And I'm excited to continue running TIP asynchronously to see what new insights those tests yield. Additionally, TIP has shown how currently relevant social media apps might be leveraged for the purposes of learning and research. The most interesting insight TIP unlocked for me personally is a phenomenon I've started calling designfulness. Designfulness is essentially the daily mindful practice of design, specifically as it relates to the meaning of one's life. How designfulness is different from life design is the wrong question to ask, I think. Designfulness is about how one practices life design. During this 6-week study, it became apparent to me that the participants who had a reason for their project that was bigger than themselves remained highly engaged, posted more regularly, and reported higher levels of satisfaction in the end. I'm excited to continue researching and exploring designfulness. I recently accepted a position as the creative director at the Slope School in Utah, where I'll be implementing designfulness practices for faculty and students, as well as building out my own lab to continue developing the practice with young adults and professionals. So I'm really excited to keep the work going. Loads of people I want to thank for their help on this project. Reese Duca for the funding, Kathy Davies for serving as a constant mentor, not only during the project, but just over the last year in general. Ari Kelman for being an amazing advisor, Steph Shorter-Bonney for helping with graphic design, Karin Forcell for being my LDT advisor, Soren and Karen for being wonderful LDT instructors, Bill, Ashley, Kathy, Ari, and Irmela for being the reviewers. Thanks for being here today. Dan, Elena, Steph, Rob, Will, Emily, Lara, Myra, Lexi, Adam, Logan, and Brian for being my lab rats, my willing participants. Mino, Del, and Seti for being my peer writing group, and the rest of the LDT cohort. You've all played a huge role in this, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.